Hi, my name is Saket. I am co-founder CEO at Nexla. I'm joined here by Chitra and Daryl. Quick one bit on Nexla. We are exhibiting here in the marketplace section. We bring automation to data engineering, which is integration, preparation, monitoring of data, and help produce data products. I'll let Chitra introduce herself and tell a little bit about the role of data at her company.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chitra Hota. I head data engineering and architecture at Oaktree. My team builds data engineering pipelines and frameworks, data lakes, data warehouses to enable data analytics and reporting at scale across Oaktree.
Hi, everybody. I'm Daryl Cherry. I'm Chief Architect at Clearwater Analytics. And so with us, data is really the lifeblood of our business. We're pulling hundreds of gigs of data in from thousands of data sources every day. And we are processing that data and doing lots of different analytics, providing products for our customers with it in terms of investment accounting, analytics, performance, regulatory compliance, and other things. So very fundamental to what we do every day, in and out, and for our customers.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So you're both in financial services, asset management sector. What is the most challenging part of data in this sector for the audience here?
So the most challenging part of data for asset management is unstructured data. So we have a lot of unstructured data that needs to be married together with the traditional data. And the unstructured data can come in PDFs, text files, Excel, and you name it. So that is currently the biggest challenge.
Yeah. And Daryl, I mean, in your case, you're working with a broad variety of data across different asset classes. So if you can share with us a little bit, what is the variety of data you see and what challenges you are seeing in that?
Yeah, for us, a lot of our challenges comes in the diverse, heterogeneous nature of the data that we get. So like I mentioned, hundreds of gigs from thousands of sources. And this is data for lots of different securities and asset types, right? We have things from stocks, bonds, mortgage loans, limited partnerships, all kinds of data that come in. And when that data arrives, we have to do lots of normalization to it to make sure it gets into our single format. We enrich the data with our own data that we have from different security vendors for security data, pricing data. And then we take that data and put it in a common format so we can do all the reporting on it for our clients. So that nature of diverse data, lots of different formats, we have to do lots of cleaning to it, like I said, normalization. So it becomes a big challenge for us, and we're trying to find better ways to do that. You have a spectrum of how you can handle that data, from doing things very manually to doing things fully automated. So we're drive to get that full automation into our data analysis and ingestion.
Okay. This session we are talking about data architecture as well, right? So when you think about the architecture that you have put together, what you are doing and evolving, how do you think of the architecture in terms of also data products? What is the architecture like, and what role does data product play in there?
So the architecture has to be simple and flexible, and it should be able to process both structured and unstructured data.
Yep.
Data products are actually a very critical part of it because they enable easy transformation of data. They have a host of adapters available. You can connect to multiple data sources, and when you're starting to aggregate data for your end users, they kind of help you shorten the time to market, as well as you need less of data engineers when you're trying to roll out a data platform. So they're very critical to what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah, for us, from a data product perspective, what's really critical is the lineage of the data, understanding the transparency of it. So we get data in and we process it through our system. If there's something amiss later, like we got data that was invalid or we had something that needs to be corrected, we're going to be able to follow and trace that data back, understand where it came from, what do we need to change, and then what sources do we need to contact to make sure we're getting the proper data in. So that's a real key element for Clearwater in terms of data products.
Okay. Yeah, so data products become sort of an entity that make it easier to work with data, allow the users of data to be more agile, also create collaboration around it. And works great in terms of the structured world, structured data, and so on, right? Both of you are doing interesting work in the generative AI side. So talk to us a little bit about data in that landscape. How do you work with data, working with the large language models, and what do you see there from data architecture perspective?
Sure. So we deal with both voice as well as unstructured data in the form of PDFs. For voice, we have to obviously transcribe it and then use that transcription as an input to our data models. The same thing for the unstructured PDF data. There are two parts to it. Some PDFs will have structures in it, like a tabular format. We then parse that out and then use that along with the traditional data. But in the case of LLMs, it's very interesting that we're doing it now. We're using the code interpreter to actually upload some of these PDFs, start interrogating them, and then take the results out and keep that as a summary to use again as inputs for a lot of insights that we have to create, summarization of fact sheets and things like that. And that is the integral part of the architecture now and will be for a great period of time to come.
Okay.
So with large language models, generative AI, and unstructured data, so at Clearwater we have a number of different projects that we're doing around Gen AI, some internal and some external. And what we found is that the LLMs with generative AI do a fantastic job at understanding unstructured data. And so we've had a number of different data sources and knowledge bases that we've been able to consolidate, vectorize, and then have semantic searching happening on that lets our internal CS and operations teams utilize LLMs to ask questions, pull data out, things that they couldn't do before. And so these are things where normally someone would have to understand all the documentation, all the data, and we're effectively taking these new users to our system and new customer support and ops people and turning them into power users immediately. They can get answers to their questions at their fingertips. We can extract all the data we want from our different knowledge sources. And the other thing we've really explored and had a lot of success with is the ability to take documents like PDF documents and have them uploaded and then have the LLM look at those, analyze them, and we can extract lots of data from these different documents that allow us to pull out, investment policy, compliance numbers, all kinds of information that helps us understand what our customers are doing and how they need to structure their different assets and compliance rules.
Okay. So asset management is interesting in that there's a lot of structured data. When we think about portfolios, stock market, tickers, prices, but then there's also a lot of unstructured data like, filings, for example, investor letters, all these reports that come out. What are the practical use cases? How are investors or your end customers benefiting from this? And if you can share some interesting end applications that have happened with this innovation.
Yeah, so we have a couple of applications that we've built in-house. One of the applications is called Earnings Calls Transcriber, where we actually record earnings calls, those we're allowed to record, and then we transcribe them, and then they take this text out, summarize it, and send it to the analyst. So this is actually more of automation, and then also the end product can be used for sentiment analysis, can be used for named entity recognition, and fed into other data that had traditionally been mined from holdings, transactions, and issuers, and joined with that. So that's one very good example of how we use the unstructured data. The second thing would be the quarterly reports, loan notices, bankruptcy notices, which are all coming as PDFs. And when you're making an investment decision, you do need to have all these alternate forms of data available to you, so your insights are more risk adjusted. And you're also looking at whether to invest in or not invest in based on all of these alternate data sources in addition to your traditional ones that you already have in-house.
Okay. Daryl, what are some of the cool use cases you are seeing? What is the end user benefiting from, both with the unstructured, LLM-based sort of unstructured data LLM approaches, as well as, the other data architecture around
Okay,
structure?
so we have a couple different use cases that have really highlighted value for our customers. One of them was around the ability on our website, as they're looking at our product and they're analyzing their reports, they can ask questions about the reports and questions about their data. And we can give them links, not only the data that we're storing, the unstructured data, has all the information about where the different reports are in the product, and then we can use tooling on top of that to now give them links. So they can ask a question, say, what is my cash position reports, and we can provide them links to the reports instantaneously to take them to that data. So that was a really huge win for our customers. The other one was around one of our LPX products. We're actually beta testing some different products around looking at different fund prospectuses and other things that we have where they can ask questions when they see data changing in their reports, they're not sure why. They can now do some investigation and quickly use the LLM to ask questions on why is this IRR changed? Why did it go up so high? They can get information quickly from the the large language model that has all that information behind it, from the fund information, investment policy statements, other things that they're using.
That's some very cool applications, right? One of the things that, as we're heading into more automation, how does the role of investors sort of change with the benefit of this generative AI, right? I mean, you can ask so many questions, it can analyze so much data. Do investors become, capable of producing more returns, and how do you see that from a technology driving the business perspective?
So first of all, they're getting more savvy,
Yeah.
not just the investors, but also having the marketing teams, the legal teams, and the product specialist teams. They used to spend time writing out commentary for funds, for example, or writing a performance report. They will have this readily available and produced in less amount of time, because the summarization is already available. Like the Copilot features that he is building in his team, it's going to be table stakes going forward.
Yeah.
We just have to understand that with using the private version of an LLM model, and the documents that we are feeding it become our own repositories, and we vectorize and keep them for time, for the time that we need it for.
So I didn't hear your question. Could you repeat it?
Yeah, just to repeat my question again, it was like all this technology that you are building, do you see the role of investors in how they act and how they make decisions, changing over time, and what's kind of your thought process on that? Like, how will investing change with the technology? Yeah.
That's a great question. So I think a lot of
Copilot
this is information is now going to be at people's fingertips. So things were very complex before. You had to have deep domain knowledge and lots of access to information before that is now someone can get from like a chatbot, a Copilot, and it turns someone who's kind of, like I mentioned, an early user, someone new in the system, now they're more of an expert in what they're doing. So they can get lots of information at their fingertips. They know what's going on in terms of the market. They know what's going on in terms of their assets. How are their assets changing? What types of impacts do market events happen, like interest rate hikes, other things like that. Now, instead of having to watch what goes on and kind of learn gradually, they can know these things in a much quicker environment and take action on it. And even get suggestions on actions they could take.
I have a technology engineering question. Both of you are experts in technology. What specific AWS technologies are you leveraging, for example, and any sort of advice you would have for people who are, building to scale on the cloud?
Sure. So we are big believers in using cloud-native AWS services. We're using AWS Transcribe, but not just Transcribe itself. We have built metadata and configurations around it. We've also done custom coding, and we've also scaled it so that when we do 100 earnings calls, for example, it's actually scaling to that. Yeah. The other thing that we've done is for test extract. We use the services that are readily available at AWS Test Extract. And when we need version changes or feature requests, AWS has actually worked with us to get those done. And we use that for the document parts of the product. In addition to that, we're obviously using Glue and Python and Spark ETL. We're using Glue orchestration. We're using Event Bridge, Huda. We're using a lot of these services that are native to AWS. And Lambda is like the staple for all of our scaling. And that's how we are scaling most of our platforms.
Okay. Daryl, if you can share a little bit about the cloud technologies that you are using on the engineering side that is helping you deliver the data?
Yeah, so we're using pretty much the gamut of Amazon technologies, right? We're heavy in EKS, so we're a Kubernetes shop for our compute, and lots of scale there. Obviously, S3 from a storage perspective, because it's tons of storage for cheap, which is great. Bedrock and SageMaker we've been using as well. We got into the early preview of Bedrock, so we started playing with that to see how it's going to operate with some of the Claude models and the Titan models. SageMaker for doing some training and fine-tuning as well, so we're using that a lot. Lambdas for compute on top of EKS, so there's some situations where Lambda is really the right tool for the right job. And API gateways. Those are really the kind of the fundamental building blocks that we've used to build our platform out on top of large language models and data ingestion.
We haven't started using Bedrock yet. We're still using OpenAI, but we do use API gateway and the lake formation overall also, and Redshift and Athena.
Daryl, specifically, if you can share, you deal with a variety of data at the company. from many different places and systems. If you can share a little bit about how you also use maybe Nexla in some of these cases across the data variety. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So Nexla gives us some really key benefits that we're enjoying as we use it for data ingestion. One is the fact that it can connect to so many different data sources. Like I said, we have thousands of data sources we're connecting to, and under those data sources, there's some that are SFTP, some that are shares, some that are APIs. So no matter how we're accessing data from other databases or from other file servers, we can pull that data in. And the flexibility, I think, of Nexla's transformations was something that was key. As I mentioned, all these different data sources, we have lots of data that needs to be cleaned up properly. It has different weird formats that we have to change it to and transform. So Nexla gives us that ability to not only use their built-in transformations, but if we have something that's custom or we need, because we have a certain vendor that's giving us data in a way that they don't, that isn't standard, we can build a custom transformation to handle that particular vendor.
Cool. Thank you. I wanted to see if there are any questions coming in from the audience. I have a ton more questions, especially on real-time data also, but anything from the people here?
Run down with the mic socket.
Thank you. No, thank you for the panel. It was great. I was curious, like you both spoke a lot. Hi, is that better?
There we go. Yeah.
No, thank you for the panel. That was great. I was curious. You both spoke about like solutions in your firms using public data, especially for publicly traded assets, right? Like equities. Could you speak a little bit about solutions you've used for, let's say, private credit to improve or enhance investment decisions?
Yeah. So in our case, some of the private security information that we get comes from customers, right? So customers will have different investments, different assets, and they'll provide us that data. So we don't just get data from publicly other like Moody's or other companies. We'll also get data from the customers themselves about what they're doing. And there's other areas we're exploring to get data from new sources that we don't do today that'll give us some more information about privately held securities, like limited partnerships, other things, mortgage loans, that type of data.
So for us, most 80% of our portfolios are private. So what I suggest, what I explain, is both for private and for public. In fact, for us, it's more private than public. So we're using all these tools that I've explained. Unstructured data is actually more rampant in private than in public. Public, you'll get a lot of vendor data available also for issuers and all of that. Market ratings are available for public data. For private, we use a lot of these document-based parsing. We use Excel-based files. And loan rent rolls, loan notices, things like that for CLOs. And it's actually coming in variety of formats, sometimes even in terms of emails and text files. And we should be very nimble enough to parse any kind of format that's coming our way. So our architecture is scaling to that. So the transformation is config driven now, so we can change as we go. We've already mining the metadata and the lineage as well. So that gives us a good sense of what kind of data is coming in and how we need to transform it. And we're landing all that on our data lake to join with the traditional forms of data that are coming in as well.
Thank you so much, Chitra and Daryl. So to summarize the session, we're coming up to the end of this, but it's very fascinating within financial services asset management because there's a huge variety of data. There is structured data, which is real time. You're getting data right all the time from the market. There's also data that is coming, all the which way from ratings, for example, to small providers, which may have spreadsheets, PDF documents all over the place. But then it's also a sector that is very rich with unstructured data, different type of filings, reports, investor letters, all the way up to like equity research and so on. And there is so much insight in the data, and if you can act on it, in time, it can make real dollar impact, right? So it's a very fascinating space in terms of the data challenges, both in volume, complexity, diversity, and also the impact that effective data technology can make. So I want to thank both Daryl and Chitra for sharing how they have taken a look at the data architecture, using cloud-native technologies, using technologies like Nexla, for example, to work with disparate data, and bring that all together into what is actually creating real business impact for their customers and the ultimate consumer as well. So thank you again for coming here and joining us for the session. If you want to check out a little bit more about Nexla, we are in the marketplace section. I'll flash up the booth location for us here. It's way on the other side of the conference, but come and take a look at how companies are working with data across disparate technologies and creating data products, bringing more scale and collaboration to their data operations. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thanks,
for having
everybody.
us.
Thank you.